analyzes practices from all over the world on the situation of children in detention, children deprived of liberty in time of COVID-19. But to come back to the different preparatory meetings, we had since 2019 several regional preparatory meetings in North America, that was organized in Mexico, in Central America, in Latin America. We had one for Europe, and soon, with our colleague from Penal Reform and Terre, we will organize the preparatory meeting for Middle East. At national level, we were lucky enough to host discussion and exchange among professionals in Lebanon, in Singapore, in South Africa, and more recently before the New Year's break in USA. Soon, we will move to China and India. So the objective of those preparatory meetings, like the one we have today, is, of course, to feed the reflection around the next World Congress. What are the main trends, the main challenges, and the main practices we can identify in countries like Pakistan today? And as well, the idea is to create synergies at regional or national level between stakeholders. So I think that we are around 60 to 80 participants today. And the objective of this meeting is to create as well this national network, or at least to support it. The main result of those preparatory meetings at international level gave us a strong interest on two main topics. The first one is the equal access to justice, and the second one, which is linked to the first one, is the right of the child to non-discrimination. So that will certainly be the main issue studied during the World Congress in November 2021. But we are expecting your output today, your inputs, to get what are the main issues you would like to bring to the World Congress, and you would like to discuss and follow up later on this year. So I would just wanted to finish this very short introduction by giving all my thanks to the Group Development Pakistan and our, in particular, Valerie and her team for all their support during all those weeks and months of preparation of this preparatory meeting, and to congratulate her and her team for the great job Group Development Pakistan is doing in child justice in Pakistan. But I wanted as well to thank the Ministry of Justice for the interest and for supporting us today in this event. And I give you back the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Cédric. Thank you for the introduction and for being patient with us. I would now invite Dr. Najat to share her thoughts on the importance of justice for children in the current COVID-19 context.
Thank you. Dear children, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity to join you in this national consultation to strengthen and advance justice for and with children in preparation of the World Congress on Justice with Children. In my remarks today, I will focus on the importance of ensuring justice for children in the context of the COVID-19. As you know, the world is facing an unprecedented global health, humanitarian, and socio-economic crisis. The pandemic and its mitigation measures have impacted children worldwide. In the words of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, what began as a health crisis risks evolving in a broader child rights crisis. The challenges of ending violence against children were already immense before COVID-19 struck. The direct impact of the pandemic, as well as its mitigation measures taken, are putting us even further behind. Today, I want to share with you three messages. The first one, the pandemic and the responses from states are harming children worldwide, with the poorest and vulnerable being affected the hardest. We know that the risk of children being exposed to violence both at home and online has increased worldwide. We know that children who are already vulnerable, including the poor, minorities, indigenous, refugees, migrants, children living on the street, internally displaced children, disabled children, children deprived of family care, and children deprived of liberty, girls, children living in conflicts, affected areas and humanitarian settings are more at risk to have no access to basic services and or to be victims of violence, discrimination, and exploitation. We know that children are arrested and detained because they are living and working on streets, because they are migrants, because they are refugees, because they are participating to unrest and social movements calling for governments to address inequality, injustice. We know that this pandemic is creating added family stresses related to job loss, isolation, and anxieties over health and finances. We know that this pandemic is having significant negative effects on children's mental health and well-being. And we know that the mid and longer term socioeconomic crisis caused by COVID-19 will increase poverty and the risk of children experiencing violence and exploitation, with the most vulnerable being hit hardest. My second message: the pandemic and its mitigation measures are impacting the functioning of the justice systems globally. The pandemic and its mitigation measures are impacting the timely, fair, and effective access to child-sensitive justice. Many justice institutions are already struggling to function as growing numbers of staff are forced to take time off work. Courts are closing and reducing their operation, which contributes to increased case backlogs and increasingly lengthy judicial and administrative proceedings. The rise in violence against children and gender-based violence puts further demand on justice systems already limited and disrupted. And the economic impacts of the pandemic will increase the burden on justice systems. The difficulty to access to justice services in many countries acutely affect children at risk or victims of violence, undocumented migrants, refugees and asylum seekers, children in detention, including migrants and pretrial detainees. In addition, lack of functioning judicial oversight, reduced monitoring and preventing torture and other ill treatment in detention facilities. In conflict and crisis contexts, justice and security-related concerns are even more acute in the context of COVID-19. While specific guidance exists to address protection issues in humanitarian context during the pandemic, there is a need to review how justice and security institutions are functioning across the humanitarian development nexus. My third message: the COVID-19 crisis is significantly affecting progress on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and calls for a renewed and sustainable investment on SDG 16 to achieve more peaceful, just, and inclusive society. The pandemic has revealed and exacerbated inequality and injustice around the globe. It has given rise to justice challenges faced by vulnerable and marginalized children. At the same time, the current situation has also spurred innovation, such as strengthening child helplines, solving cases online or over the phone instead of in courts, releasing children who were deprived of liberty. And to this regard, I would like to commend the ongoing work in Pakistan in advancing justice for children, especially with piloting the child-friendly courts even during this pandemic. As the government of Pakistan prepares its second voluntary national review during the upcoming high-level political forum in July, I hope that these good examples will be also shared in the report with other member states. This crisis provides an opportunity to rethink and invest in new ways of building with and for children peaceful, just, and inclusive society. As we take stock of responses to the pandemic so far and look ahead to building back better afterwards, we can make justice systems more gender and child sensitive and accessible to all children without discrimination. We must start by learning the lessons from the first phase of the pandemic and integrate them into emergency preparedness plans now, including protocols for interagency cooperation and for how the administration of justice can continue to operate under such challenging conditions. We must ensure that justice and child protection services are identifying as essential and life-saving along with physical health, mental health, education as part of a multi-sectoral and child rights-based response built on a solid and a sustainable social protection system that will protect children and their caregiver from economic risks. We must recognize that strengthening justice for and with children is an investment and will be key to the recovery phase as we build back. More broadly, every state requires sustained and high level of political commitment to implement justice for children at national and local levels. This needs to be underpinned by the establishment of a comprehensive and child-centered justice framework, including securing and defending the rights of children left behind, equal access to child and gender-sensitive social and justice services and remedies, deprivation of liberty only used as a matter of last resort in exceptional circumstances and for the shortest possible period, priority given to alternative to detention and to institutionalization, tackling structural injustice and corruption, ending impunity, and empowering communities and children through access to appropriate information, legal aid, and increasing participation within the justice system. Justice sector actors, from judge to police to legal aid providers, need to work together and with key actors of child protection and social systems. Justice sector actors can help change attitudes and behaviors through promoting a switch from approaches that are quick to stigmatize and criminalize children, especially children from marginalized or poor backgrounds, to an approach where their rights are respected and their voices are heard. Empowering children and their families and enhancing their capacities to seek out redress for grievance is also critical to achieving access to justice for children. In conclusion, I want to remind that this year, the high-level political forum will review Sustainable Development Goal 16. It is a key moment for advocating and mobilizing all key stakeholders, including children themselves, to ensure that all children without discrimination have equal access to justice and that justice in all its forms, penal, civil, social, meets the rights and needs of children as enshrined in international human rights standards. As the UN Secretary General has reminded us, the seriousness of the threats the world faces should not prevent us from seizing this watershed moment for investment in critical public services and global public goods. Many thanks for your attention.
Hi, I'm sorry for butting in, but it is Syed Al-Osman. He's leaked the code if you look on my profile.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Najat. Thank you, Dr. Najat, for explaining so wonderfully. Our next guest is Barrister Maleeka Bokhari, but she's running a bit late. So could I please ask Mr. Miqdad Mehdi to talk a bit about Pakistan's legal framework for justice with children? Hello? Could I please ask Mr. Miqdad Mehdi? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jugnoo.
I think there was a lag. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I'm equally afraid, like from these trolls, what they are doing in this meeting. Yeah.
Very sorry about that.
Okay.
We managed to pick out some, but I think there's one there.
Yeah, it's okay. It's like very strange. So thank you so much. And I'm like very pleased and happy to see all the galaxy of the child rights experts here from all over the Pakistan. and my senior and my colleagues are here. If we talk about the child protection system in Pakistan and our legal framework in Pakistan, unfortunately, we don't have any child protection system, a very comprehensive child protection system. We have some laws and some provisions in bits and pieces in different statutes and laws. So we will talk about them in like very briefly. According to the given time in 15 minutes. For example, we have if we talk about our constitution, there is not as such very much special about the children, except 2 or 3 provisions which are in the fundamental rights about the children, about the slavery or prohibition of the children involvement in hazardous places or like right to education. Otherwise, there is nothing special as such for children, or there is no definition as such of the child. But if we talk about the Pakistan Penal Code, we have some provisions in the Pakistan Penal Code which are very much relevant to the children to protect them from from abuse and exploitations. Pakistan Penal Code as such itself has no definition of the child. That is unfortunate, but there are some provisions which define different crimes and different penal sections are about the children. Like we have the child pornography, we have covered the child pornography, we have cruelty to child, we have child sexual abuse in the Pakistan Penal Code. These are the sections which are covering the children and offenses against the children. But still we are looking for the definition of the child in the Pakistan Penal Code so that the ambiguity and the problems could be avoided in the legal system. And if we talk about some other special laws on the top priority, it's like our Juvenile Justice System Act 2018. The drafter of this law is also here in this session. It's a very comprehensive law. It was developed after a long consultative process and come up with the very good provisions to protect the children who are in conflict with law. The special feature is it's providing free legal aid to the victim and the accused children, both at the state expense. And it's suggesting exclusive juvenile courts, juvenile justice committees, system of diversion, so that provide rapid justice to the children who are in conflict with law, establishment of observation homes, juvenile justice centers. These sort of things are suggesting in Juvenile Justice System Act 2018. There are some problems. I think Ahmad will discuss those problems which are built in our legal judicial system. So this is overall, it's a very good law. And after the establishment of especially the few child courts in Pakistan in different jurisdiction, it's like coming to the purpose. Same in the same year we passed Xenobler Response and Recovery Act 2020. It was like to provide and to protect the children who get missing, and it's just to expedite the process after missing a child, and you go to the police station and always get a delay in response from the state level. This law is providing a mechanism to expedite the process of complaint and early recovery of the missing child. Is making the liable to the police to provide to come up with the specific Meyer reporting to Zara agency and to provide protection and take the Meyer to the children who are missing or whose parents are looking for their children. So recently we passed this law, and then we have also a national law, another national law, that is Trafficking in Person Act 2018. The law is also very exhaustive and very much clear that it includes, first of all, it has a very good definition of the trafficking, and then other side it has covered the internal and external trafficking both. Internal trafficking is very much linked with the children who are mostly become the victim of child domestic labor. So sometimes they move from one province to other province, and they are trafficked, but this law is providing protection to those children if they are victim of the internal trafficking. Priorly it was not available, this protection was not available, but now we have mechanisms, we have a protection system under this law to deal the internal and external trafficking as well. Obviously external trafficking is if it is from or inside the geographical boundaries of the Pakistan. Then if we talk about the cyber crimes and pornography, we have some very good law, Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016. It is dealing the child pornography, if it is communicated, if it is through cyber or through any video or audio link or sexually explicit material that is communicated through the any devices, or we have also covered it in our Pakistan Penal Code section 292B and C is also covering the child pornography. It's like making responsible whoever has a possession of any child pornographic material or who is making it are also liable under the Pakistan Penal Code as well. So Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act is dealing with the cyber crimes and child pornography in section 21. It's a very detailed section about the child, covering the child pornography. So these are a few our national laws and national legal framework that is covering to the children who are victim or the children who are in conflict with law or in the difficult situation. Similarly, we have some after the 18th Amendment in our Constitution. It's a basically responsibility of the provinces to make the laws and to provide the protection to the children. So our provinces have also come up with the some laws which are very much related with the child protection. For example, our Punjab province was the first one that passed Punjab Destitute and Neglected Children Act 2004. Then Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Child Protection and Welfare Act 2010. It is also providing the protection mechanisms to the children in the province. Since Child Protection Authority Act 2011, and since they have fortunately Sindh was having a pre-partition law, Bombay Children Act, that was adopted by the province in Children Act 1955, and in the Balochistan recent 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they passed Balochistan Child Protection Act 2016, and then we have Islamabad Capital Territory Child Protection Act 2018. These all laws are dealing with the child protection issues and the children who are in on the street, children in difficult situations. They are giving the remedies to those children. If we talk about the child labor and child domestic labor issue, basically child labor is a major issue, and we have some laws and some legal framework to deal the victim of child labor. We have some provincial legislations. We have Employment of Children Act 1991. Recently, it has been amended. The schedule has been amended to deal the child domestic labor. It's a and then we all our provinces have on laws like Punjab Prohibition of Child Labor at Bricklins Act, Punjab Domestic Workers Act 2019, since Child Protection of Prohibition of Employment of Children Act. Similarly, in the KP, we have a law to deal the child labor. But unfortunately, child domestic labor is not covered as such in 3 provinces like Sindh, KP, and Balochistan. We don't have any law to deal the child, or even in Islamabad, we don't have any law to deal the child domestic labor issue. That is very much a pertinent issue. More than 50 children has were killed basically after 2010 first case that was reported and got media attention. Shazia Masih case, it is reported more than 50 children have been killed in this trade. But 3 provinces have no law, Sindh, KP, and Balochistan. But in Punjab, we have Punjab Domestic Worker Act 2019. but it's again have implementation issues. Maybe Ahmad will cover it. And then if finally, if we talk about the child marriage and corporal punishment, we are having like same the Child Marriage Stand Act 1929. It is very like with the old style law. It's giving very difficult process of complaint, like you have to go to the union council secretary and then go he will make the complaint to the magistrate, and he will issue the notices, and there is a penalty of only 1,000 rupees and 1 month imprisonment. And there is a very rare conviction under this law. In Punjab, it has like 1 month, 50,000 penalty, and imprisonment has increased to 6 months. But otherwise, it's like very toothless law. But this is the law that is available in 3 provinces, and Sindh has like made a very progressive law. The offense is like non-bailable, non-compoundable, and cognizable offense. It's in the Sindh. And lastly, if we talk about the corporal punishment, unfortunately, except Sindh, there is no legislation in any province to deal the issue of the corporal punishment, and it's very much linked with the dropout of the children from the schools and harsh punishments in the different setups. So there is a need to introduce to deal this issue of the child abuse. So this is overall legal child protection system in our national and provincial level. Thank you, Jugnoo.
Thank you so much, Mehdi Saab. The lawyer in me is very happy because I think you just gave us a crash course, a fantastic crash course, and crash course on the relevant laws in Pakistan. So now I would like to invite Mr. Ahmar Majeed to share his thoughts regarding the challenges related to justice with children and to further Mehdi Saab's conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Miqdad has rightly pointed out the laws which we have in Pakistan and particularly in provinces. I will be mostly discussing on the practical sides, the issues and the challenges which the children face when they come to the courts, when we face the police and the whole stakeholders of the criminal justice system. To start off, Miqdad rightly said that we have now since a fantastic Juvenile Justice System Act, which covers almost everything. But again, there are issues of practicality. We don't have rules established at federal or provincial government level under this act so far. So most of the law is not implemented because it's mostly connected to the rules. For example, the law provides legal aid mechanism for the victim and for the juveniles, but since there's no rules, so legal aid in actuality is not being provided to the children or to the victims. Similarly, the law says that when a child is arrested, within 24 hours, a lawyer has to share the rights of the juvenile with him when he's in the detention. But we don't have any mechanism, or no lawyers have been appointed to provide that information to the lawyer when to the child when he's arrested. Juvenile courts, the law requires that exclusive juvenile courts needs to be established. Unfortunately, we do not have exclusive juvenile courts throughout the Pakistan. The existing courts have been given the additional powers that whenever they take the case of a juvenile, they would act as a juvenile court. So which does not serve the purpose, and the exclusivity which requires under the law is totally missed. Then again, very progressive actions under the law, it requires for the diversion, but unfortunately the juvenile justice committees, we have only a handful of committees notified in the provinces, which means that the diversion proceedings cannot take place, and at the end of the day, the whole restorative justice approach which the law brings for the juveniles absolutely fails. There's a great need that the juvenile justice committees are required under the Juvenile Justice System Act needs to be notified and constituted so that the protection which the juvenile who has committed a minor or a major offense as defined under the Juvenile Justice System Act can avail. So the whole process of rehabilitation can actually go forward. Then again, the structures which were required under the law have not been established so far. For example, the law says that a child cannot be kept inside a police station. Whenever the child is arrested, the child has to be sent to an observation home. Again, we don't have a single observation home established throughout the Pakistan. So every child who has been arrested throughout the Pakistan goes into that same police station, and there are no separate space for the juveniles. So they're kept with the adult prisoners in the lockups. And the same story goes when the child is convicted. The law requires that the rehabilitation centers are to be established, which will provide full rehabilitation services to the juveniles. But unfortunately, not a single rehabilitation center has been established so far. Again, the law is very strict about the disclosure of identity of the juveniles so that the protection can be ensured to the juveniles. But unfortunately, the courts do not take any action when the identity of the juvenile is revealed in the media, be it electronic media or print media. And we have also an issue regarding the social media. People see children, the intentions might be good, that they see a child handcuffed and they start putting the pictures of that juvenile online. But at the end of the day, it's also causing harm to the juvenile because the identity of the child is being revealed. So that needs to be worked on so that the identity could be protected. Probation officers and their role has been enhanced under the law, particularly for the juveniles. They have been given additional role during the investigation so that they can help the police during the investigation, and they have their input in the challan, which we have, which is presented to the court, the investigation report. And then probation officer can also, on the request or demand of the judge of the court, provide a full detailed report regarding the juvenile and the circumstances in which that juvenile resulted in that offense. But unfortunately, probation officers are very far and few with the limited sources. I'll discuss those in detail later on. Coming on to the victims, we recently had this Anti-Rape Investigation and Trial Ordinance 2000, and similarly a Criminal Amendment Act in which rape has been redefined, gender neutral. A lot of good definition regarding the rape, the child sexual abuse of the children have been added, like Miqdad recently shared. But unfortunately, the law has been passed through ordinance. So the life of the law so far is only 120 days, and the parliament has to pass and make it into an act, and otherwise the law will lapse. And on this act also, a lot of structures and systems have been introduced, but unfortunately nothing has been established. It's only been a month, but even in a month we don't see any progress. Like special courts are required. We haven't seen any special court. It's just a notification that's required. Then anti-rape crisis cells are required. We don't see them being established. Then commissioner, these anti-rape crisis cells are to be headed by the commissioner or deputy commissioner, and a medical superintendent of a public hospital would be designated so that the medical legal procedures can be completed early and quickly. But again, then that will be at a district level. When we have big districts like Rahim Yar Khan or Bahawalpur, how that mechanism work is still questionable. Then legal aid is to be provided under the Legal Aid Authority Act 2020. That act hasn't really taken off as yet. Witness Protection and Security Benefits Act 2017 will provide the witness protection. We haven't seen any major witness protection acts protection programs being run in Pakistan. Then the juvenile will be investigating the crimes, so there are issues over there also. Particularly the juveniles and the victim child face is that there is the major thing that the police is that
I think we're having some connection issues with Ahmar. So Jugnoo, maybe you can shift to the next session and we can go back to Ahmar later. Jugnoo? Ali, could you unmute Jugnoo, please?
Let me check. Wait a second, please. She's been unmuted.
Sorry. It took a little time to unmute myself. I think we will move on to you now, Valerie. Maybe you can share your thoughts on examples of good practices, and then maybe we can come back to Najeed Saab later during the course of the session.
Okay, all right. So I mean, basically, I will also request Ali's support to show a few pictures so that the good practices I'm talking about can also be presented more visually. So Ali, maybe you can share the PowerPoint presentation we talked about. So what happens, and like as Najat mentioned, I mean, I'm glad that she mentioned the current efforts of the Pakistani government to work on justice, the child justice reform agenda. So Miqdad presented us the basically the challenges that are inherent to Ahmar presented us the challenges inherent to law enforcement or some legal and policy reform that are needed. But what we need to remember is that in May 2018, a major law enactment was the Juvenile Justice System Act, which took place. And that legal reform really set the path, really set the tune for taking into consideration the need of the children, first and foremost in conflict, and to some extent in contact with the law as well. In December 2017, and some children will explain it better, the then Chief Justice of Lahore High Court decided to pilot a juvenile court and what we call the child-sensitive court. Next. So we did that, and to do that, we asked the help of schools, and Roots IV was the first school to respond. We asked the help of children, and on 19th of December 2019, we actually established the first juvenile courts under the JJSA and the child-sensitive courts. We assessed that court, and what happened is that basically, based on that assessment, which was positive, the National Judicial Policy Making Committee in June 2019 decided to further establish and pilot those child courts. And so till date, looking at the enforcement of this National Judicial Policy Making Committee decision, which is the highest policy-making body in the Supreme Court in Pakistan, we have so far 7 pilot child courts that are established in the country, and 2 more will hopefully be established in Karachi this month. That means those courts may have a single or child protection laws. And in addition to establishing those laws, the judiciary, the higher judiciary, also decided that judicial officers should be trained on child rights, child protection, and child justice, which we did. And so the result of that is that we really had a state-led process, which was initially boosted up so by the government in terms of making a legislation, then by the judiciary in terms of enforcing those legislation, and then by the government and the judiciary, because we did not only train judges, we also trained lawyers, prosecutors, with magistrates, child probation officers, and social protection officers. And so the result in this is that currently, when we look at how those courts are functioning, there is a shift, and we basically look at existing structures where secondary victimization of the children do not occur, where SOPs and practices within the code are aligned with international child safeguarding standards. So we are aware of the fact that those positive results are limited largely, not only, but largely to the structures that we have piloted in collaboration with the judiciary. But what it has done is that it has set up, a model that is currently being studied by different provincial governments to be upscaled and replicated further. And we, and the government, and in the state, sorry, because we're talking about the judiciary, the lawmakers, and therefore the parliament, as well as the government, which is the executive, so the three pillars of a democracy, are currently working on trying to improve the awareness of the population and the decision makers on child rights, child protection, and child justice, and the enforcement of those laws. So because, so to do that, we have, for example, the KP government who synergize with us to make awareness messages against child abuse and how to report, what kind of courts were present to do that. We've had musicians, celebrities who helped us guide parents on do's and don'ts. And interestingly, we also had the Federal Ministry of Law and Justice. This is why they are hosting co-hosting this event today. They basically have been partnering to listen to the children's requests and suggestions, and then to use arts such as the movie which was presented to you, which is Beguna, or music or painting, and discuss how to improve child justice and take into consideration their suggestion. And that has had tangible effects because, for example, when the children met the Honorable Federal Minister of Law and Justice, Dr. Fahoun Nassim, in October 2019, they requested him to establish a specific child court in ICT. And we now have a child court in ICT that has been approved by the federal cabinet. So there was this, momentum, unprecedented, historical momentum from the judiciary and also from the government at a federal and provincial level to actually promote justice with children in order to respond to cases of child abuse in a child and gender sensitive manner, and interestingly, in collaboration with the civil society. That was the first time that this actually happened to that level. Before that, no child rights organization had been invited to sit in a meeting of the NJPNC. The Federal Ministry of Law and Justice is not known to be, welcoming movies and arts and talking to young children. And you also, what should I say, this ongoing training and capacity building program with the judicial academies are also critical to not only increase the level of knowledge among actors of justice, but also transform behavior. And I think one of the, apart from the public and private partnership for child justice that I've been describing to you, what is also very important is to see how, because the capacity building was organized with the state institutions, but with technical input from the civil society and with creative and participatory process, we did not only had an increase in knowledge, but we have a transformative behavior. And we can see a shift in the behavior of the judges, the prosecutors, and the lawyers who become child rights champions. And to give you a tangible example, the judges that have been trained are basically issuing court orders demanding, we need diversion, we need juvenile justice committees, we need observation home because children cannot stay in police stations, we need rehabilitation center. And for example, in one of the provinces of Pakistan, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because of that, a state agreement, a PC1, is currently being drafted to establish 7 child protection institutions, 7 child courts, including virtual child courts for the COVID-19 pandemic, so to ensure that access to justice will still be ensured, even if not physically present, using video linkage, and also 7 observation homes and rehabilitation center at divisional level. So we're having a clear proactiveness of the state and the judiciary, talking to the executive, trying to enforce what the legislative has done, and that tripartite synergy to achieve and better enforce child rights as per Pakistan international commitment, constitution, and domestic legislation, to us is historical. The other aspect, which is very important, is that the government and the judiciary and the parliament via its oversight activity have agreed to collaborate with the civil society and allow data collection. So we actually have example of we have data, we have information to assess the performance of the piloted child codes, to assess the impact of the training, and basically based on data, based on scientific evidence, we can identify what is working well and what needs further improvement. So that's called evidence-based and informed legal and policy reform. And I think that's the only way forward. And last but not the least, Jugnoo, you will be able to call them in. The judiciary and the government, as I mentioned earlier, has agreed to follow a child participatory approach. And the children will tell you how it happened, not me. Thank you. You need to unmute yourself, Jugnoo.
Jugnoo has been unmuted.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. Thank you for that.
I'm highly apologetic. I have to take these precautions.
You do, absolutely. Thank you so much, Valerie, and for all your brilliant work that you're doing for child protection. I can call child delegates now. So we have Hassan Ali Takar, who can maybe share his thoughts. Hassan, hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for all your brilliant work that you're doing for child protection. I think there's a lag. I can call child delegates now. So we have.
Am I hearable?
Yes,
you are. Absolutely.
Please proceed.
Okay, so my name is Ali Hassan Takar, and I am a member of HRCYTF, and I was involved in the process of making of child courts in KP, in which our job was to find child-friendly spaces for the child court and to make it child-friendly spaces for a child court, and to select a suitable and child-friendly color scheme for it, and to select play area, etc., for so that the child courts are made child-friendly, and it are made of international standard. Further, what I would like to add is that these child court were made under KP KP Child Protection and Welfare Act 2018 and JDSA 2018, and it deals with all the cases of children in contact, and both with contact and conflict with law. And there are almost totally 7 child courts till now all over the Pakistan, and it's really nice to see that one of them is also launched and established in newly merged area, ex-Fata Moment, which deals with them. And before its inauguration and before making this, these courts were in a miserable condition, but after renovation and after inauguration, it was really beautiful and like child-friendly spaces, and they were made in such a way that child would not feel any kind of fear or dealing a case, and it is made for the purpose of speedy justice. Also, after that, there was an activism activity in where children were invited, and Ministry of Ministry of Law and Justice were present, and their opportunity was given us to ask our question and put our concern in front of him related to child justice, and our feedback was admired, and we got a positive response. And after that, work was done on a child justice, and it was really honor for me to be part of all this, and it was a great experience, and we will continue our struggle for child justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ali. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Next up, we have Khatija Imran Ali. Khatija, are you there?
We have Khatija Malik among the participants. So I'm going to unmute her.
Thank you.
Good evening and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khatija Imran Malik and I am a student of LLB Honors and I'm a Roots IVN. So let's put the light on the current topic of discussion, that is the rights of the children. So back in December 2017, the first ever specific juvenile court was established in Lahore in collaboration of Group Development Pakistan and Lahore High Court. You know, as we all of us are aware that Pakistan is a signatory of the Convention on Rights of Child, Article 37. I have been an active member of the Child Rights Society of Roots Ivy. And back in 2017, under the visionary leadership of Ma'am Khadija Mushtaq and Ma'am Rifat Mushtaq, we had arranged an overall collection of toys, books, clothes, and packed food, and we sent them to Lahore. Later on in 2018, we got invited from a human rights conference. Ma'am Valerie was also the head of that, and we attended that. And what a change I noticed in myself after attending that conference was that we need to look for the people around us in our surroundings, that in which problems they are, especially the children who are the most vulnerable part of the society. After attending that conference, I looked for an area that is known as Bakra Mandi. And over there, I started looking after 5 families. There were 5 orphan families. I got them admitted into schools, their admissions done, and then I visit them every week. I teach them about the good touch and the bad touch, because children are the most vulnerable part of the society. And we need to keep a check and balance on what's going on around. The things now, basically, what I need to tell you that when I started working with them, I got to know about the problems. Like one of the girls, she was working in someone's house and she was being tortured over there. I took an action against that. I went to them. I talked about that. And, I tried to solve the problem on my end. And after this, I increased my check and balance on what the children, their activities are. Because if someone is being nice to them, there's always a reason of someone being extra nice to them. So after that, I just keep a check on everything and I look at them after. And let me share a very recent case with you, as my father is a lawyer and I am also a student of law. My gym instructor, she told me that her sister-in-law was being harassed and there was a rape attempt against her, but they could not say anything because they were threatened and they were scared that if they take any actions against them, they might face any problems. So we launched a complaint against them, and now we are hoping that they won't disturb her, and further on we will take a case against them. Other than that, all the teenagers, the girls who are facing the cybercrime issues, we are looking after that and we are guiding them that they should not be scared of this. The children are like innocent flowers and they are being broken away and they're getting damaged and we have no idea what's going on around. So it's our work, the civil society and the government of Pakistan, they have to join hands in order for the protection of the children and a better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Khatija. Thank you. Can we please have Asadullah share his thoughts? Hello.
Asadullah has been unmuted.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Ali.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Asadullah Qureshi and I am a student of Roots Ivy. So, I'd like to share my thoughts on this issue, that a fully positive environment can be made for them, stretching from television to billboards. Trained personnel and teachers should be appointed for helping the children in every phase. This is a very effective way, as children do what they see people doing. The second measure which can be taken is to present real-life examples of people who were also once indulged in these crimes and how they are living a happy and prosperous life. Thank you.
Okay, so Jugnoo, maybe we've received, I think, some questions in the chat box. So maybe you could take some of those questions and we could start discussing the way forward.
Absolutely. Before we did that, Valerie, could we get Ahmar Majeed Saab to quickly conclude his presentation because he got cut off? Hello, Ahmar Majeed Saab, are you there? Would you like to?
Ahmar Saab has been unmuted as well. He's still in the meeting.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just continue as long as the internet permits me. So I was discussing the police and the issues that the children and the families face. So the medical legal is required for any sexual offense or the rape offense. That is a problem. Though they are trying to address the issue under the new rape ordinance, but medical legal officers are not available 24/7 around the clock in the designated medical hospitals, and the DNA facilities, Balochistan does not even have a DNA analysis lab. So the forensics becomes very important, which is missing in a whole province. So conviction of rape cases of the children in Balochistan, for example, is a very difficult and a totally different proposition. Police investigation is a problem. Police investigators are not trained how to handle the cases of the juveniles. They are not trained how to get the statements of a minor who has been sexually abused. So they need a lot of training of the police, and they are not aware of the legislative developments which are happening in Pakistan. They're not aware of the juvenile-related laws or the victim-related laws. The police system does not have. The police department does not have a system to regularly update or train the investigators. Then if we come to the prosecutors, apart from the prosecutors which GDP has trained in the child courts.
Hello. I think he got cut off again. Should I just move to the questions now?
Yes, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you, Ahmar Majeed Saab. Sorry.
Apart from the question, just before the question, we have Dr. Hassan from Canada, who also, or it's up to you, but rather when you start discussing the way forward, remember that Dr. Hassan, who's a Pakistani, also from Canada, involved in World Association for Psychiatry, would like also to explain and present something related to mental health for juveniles and criminals.
Absolutely.
Dr. Hassan has been unmuted.
Sorry, I will just take one question and then we'll move towards the interactive session. So Madiha Ansari asks, would love to know sorry, the laws affecting them are informed by their reality. This is for all participants and all speakers. Sorry.
Jugnoo, can you please repeat the question again? You had a bad connection and we could not hear you.
All right, I'm so sorry. So Madiha Ansari asks, would love to know if there are efforts being made to expand participatory processes and represent the voices of such children so the laws affecting them are informed by their reality. Would welcome responses from all participants.
At state level, I can explain what the state is doing. As I said earlier, what is now happening is that the state is following evidence-based policy and legal reform with regard to justice with children. So whatever feedback is coming from for example, when the child court assessment is being conducted, the children are among the ones who are being asked questions to assess what experience they are facing while in the court, and that is done in a child-sensitive manner. Additionally, we also have community sessions, and other NGOs are also doing that. And that feedback coming from children or from communities is then being put into a report, is being treated, and that report, which is a kind of evaluation or technical brief on justice, for example, the Legal Aid Society has done one recently, is shared with the decision makers, with policy and lawmakers, to try to improve and work on enforcing that reality, that law as per the reality prevailing in Pakistan. But realities are a source of information, not a barrier.
Thank you. I think I'll just take one more question because I think it's important. So Nida asks, what efforts are being taken to ensure basic rights to children who are stateless? Due to lack of having an identity, they don't get enrolled in educational institutions. Their families live in dire situations. Health and safety is an issue for them as well. Are there any measures to integrate them in a way they can access fundamental rights?
Maybe Sharafat Ali could answer that. Is there anything being done for stateless children right now at government level?
Sharafat Ali has been unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Gigi, we can.
Well, I'm not sure about what the state is doing right now, because I'm not responsible to answer on the part of the state, though fortunately and unfortunately I'm the member of an advisory board. But to be very honest, I think that this is a question that Pakistan actually has no answer, and it never had answer even previously when Pakistan was about to submit a report back in 2009. The report on CRC again in 2016. This was one of the toughest questions because we didn't have any clear answer. And I think that the state is still the same, because it's not only about the stateless person. There's another pertinent question related to this. For example, that it's the third generation of Afghan refugees, and they are still refugees. For example, that their grandparent migrated to Pakistan, and then their son was born in Pakistan, and then now it's the grandson who's also born in Pakistan. So it's not only about the stateless persons, it's also about the refugees as well. And I think that a state still doesn't have a clear-cut policy as far as my understanding is concerned on this particular issue.
Thank you so much, Sharafat Ali Saab. I think thank you to all our panelists for an insightful, informative discussion. I would now like to open the floor to discuss what is needed and what is the way forward. And to do that, I would firstly like to invite Dr. Hassan, who's a psychiatrist, to talk a bit about this. Dr. Hassan, over to you.
Thank you very much. And Assalamu alaikum, good morning and good evening to everybody. And brief introduction. My name is Dr. Tariq Hassan. I'm a forensic psychiatrist. So opposed to psychiatry, which manages mental health issues, my job as a forensic psychiatrist is to be the liaison between mental health and the justice system. So my job is to provide opinion to the courts in relation to people who have a mental health issue, are in conflict with the law, and to interpret that mental health issue and their offense in relation to legislation so that the judges, the lawyers can make an informed disposition in regards to their offenses. So my job is to understand the law and also psychiatry. I've been working with the Pakistan Psychiatric Society for the last 7 to 8 years. And we've now recently created a forensic section within the Pakistan Psychiatric Society. And I've been also working with the Islamabad High Court Bar Association and the Federal Judicial Academy in trying to, in capacity building in regards to forensic psychiatry and its application. So I was very excited to be invited today. And you see, the issues around adverse childhood experiences is something which doesn't require too much science, but there's plenty of evidence base that physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, as well as neglect, as well as household dysfunctions, whether a mother has been treated violently, whether there's mental illness, whether there's an incarcerated relative in the family, for example, or substance abuse, or separation of parents. These all can have a negative effect on the developing child, and the psychological development of that child gets significantly affected, and especially in the youth. They're 12, the age group from 12 to 16, 17 is where they're developing their sense of themselves, their sense of their identity, their sense of belonging and worth. So hence, when you're looking at reformative justice, it's extremely important that the justice system is there to reduce and stabilize childhood adverse experiences as opposed to aggravate them. We want them to be productive members of society as opposed to having vengeance or anger towards society. Now, when I was reading through the Juvenile Justice System Act of 2018, it very much, there's a lot of good language and it lays a very good framework. For example, with the Youth Criminal Justice Act and other legislation for the youth around the world, which has evolved to take into consideration the needs of the youth. And because they are different in their development, how they are influenced and the kind of factors that lead them to commit crimes are very different than how an adult would commit crimes, even with mental health issues. So, you're looking at rehabilitation, reintegration. You want fair and proportionate accountability, the importance of timely intervention and prompt enforcement. But importantly as well, even though we're looking at the needs of the child, we also have to keep in mind the victims as well, and keeping in mind how to involve victims within this process. So when you're looking at any kind of disposition, jail has to always be a last resort. So an example here is that jail is very rarely given to a youth unless it's very serious crimes, for example. Otherwise, we use other extrajudicial measures to try and divert children away from jail, away from the criminal justice system as much as possible. So the kind of things in the juvenile justice system act, like the rehabilitative centers, the Juvenile Justice Commission, those are the kind of diversion frameworks that are needed to try and keep the child develop those skills, the education, the community programs, skill-based learning, as opposed to getting them within the justice system. So your delegates very nicely put forward, how the courts and how they created those kind of, color and child-friendly systems. So those are extremely important, because if this is managed properly in their youth, as you said in the very beginning, this is an investment in them becoming productive members of society. So I'm happy to take any questions.
We have one question actually from a participant on Facebook who's saying that, when you talk about special treatment and special attention for children in conflict or in contact with the law, he's raising an issue of the non-availability of special fund for child protection courts. And that means we're talking about children who are victims. And the lack of employment for separate staff, a lack of stationery. I mean, this staff for, this kind of daily realities, and how to address that, basically.
You see, with any kind of change, one thing I've learned, and you see, if you look at mental health legislation in Pakistan, for example, we were using our British colonial legislation, the Lunacy Act of 1912, all the way through to 2001. It took almost 100, if not less than 100 years to try and change the Lunacy Act whereas other countries would have changed their mental health legislation 3 or 4 times and evolve based on public opinion. So you see, changes takes time. So even though I was just reading some of the comments, there's not a lot. You see, it starts with the legislation. It starts with having the legislation as well, but also then building on that. You see, the terms in the legislation show that if you have the Juvenile Justice Commission and, for example, you have these rehabilitative centers, you can use existing legislation to build. But it's a resource issue. Absolutely, this needs to be piloted in one area first before, and then rolling it out. But from what I heard from, I'm sorry because I had some internet issues. I joined your talk, Valerie, though, and it sounds like there is a lot of work being done. Of course, there's a lot of work needed to be done, but resources, manpower, and strategic recruitment is an important thing that we look over here, is finding the right people for the right job in the right place and having that connection. So we have a very close connection with our judges, with our lawyers, with our probation services. My plan is actually, hopefully in July, if we get our vaccinations and the COVID starts to come down, is to actually do a conference in Lahore on justice and bringing a Canadian judge and a lawyer to Pakistan to do some capacity building within the judiciary. So when I got your invite for this was an area of youth forensics that I hadn't paid too much attention to, but it needs a lot of work. But you're right, it's a resource issue, and those are things that need to be added on.
Thank you, thank you. Could I ask Mr. Waleed, who's the Secretary General of the Roots Child Rights Society, to maybe talk about the way forward and what is needed?
Waleed Mahmood. Can you confirm his name?
Yes, I think Waleed Mahmood.
Okay, he's been unmuted.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Waleed Mahmood from Root School System DHA1 Flagship Campus. I currently serve as the General Secretary of the Roots Child Rights Society. Today, I would like to talk to you about child incarceration. According to a report published by UNICEF in 2016, there were over 1 million children imprisoned around the world. The biggest reason for this is the low age of criminal responsibility set across justice systems around the world, where children who are too young and not mature enough to understand that their actions have consequences are incarcerated and thrown into prison. Furthermore, in developing countries, many children are forced into the labor force, where they are underpaid and overworked and are often neglected. This leads to many of them joining gangs and criminal organizations as they have no other support system. I would like to propose that youth correction institutions around the world need serious reform. Right now, there is not enough focus on rehabilitation and too much on punishment, which further alienates these souls from society. As an educator, our esteemed Ma'am Khatija Mushtaq believes that these institutions should focus more on enlightenment and education and make these children responsible and make these children aware of their responsibilities as the youth of their respective nations. It is only by offering support systems and protection programs to these children can we help them, as these children deserve to spend their days in classrooms and playing with their friends and not working in mines or factories or wandering the streets trying to fend for themselves. Only by changing our mentality can we help these poor souls, lest we forget that they are the future of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, back to you, Dr. Tariq. We have a question for you, which is from Marta Gil, and she asks, what is your opinion of restorative justice practices in Pakistan with child victims and offenders?
Actually, I was typing, I put my camera on, I was actually typing a reply. So basically, that's a good question. And I think some of the key issues when you're looking at legislation is that, you know, a lot of these organizations, these non-governmental organizations are doing a lot of the work. But I think the justice system, whether it's the ministry, perhaps needs to, if it is already doing it, monitor, you know, how much of this work is being done in these kind of pilot areas. How much is being done in Pakistan? Honestly, I can't give an informative answer because I haven't been in Pakistan for a while and I'm not too aware of the youth criminal justice procedures and how things are going on. So I can't give an informative answer. I apologize. But what I will say is there is a need to monitor practices on an ongoing basis with regards to, you know, juvenile cases appearing in court, randomly selecting maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 cases on a 6-monthly basis, for example, and seeing how many were, you know, how they were managed. I'd also suggest also within the exams, judicial exams for civil judges and magistrate judges, that we need to add more questions in with regards to the juvenile cases. It's just it's actually a recommendation I was hoping to put forward as far as the capacity to plead and fitness to stand trial and criminal responsibility cases in adults. So I think it has to start from it has to be multi-pronged. Exam questions should contain that. There should be more awareness and perhaps even presenting at law conferences, not just by lawyers, but maybe having psychiatrists or you guys present at law conferences as well. So it has to be a very much multi-pronged culture-changing approach. And I apologize if you guys are already doing this and I'm just repeating what you're already doing.
I think what I just wanted to point out is that, the JGSA is a new legislation. So the reformative justice regime in Pakistan is relatively new, although, lawyers have worked on it earlier. But in terms of the government, the state, not the government only, but rather the state trying to do something about it, that shift is relatively new. So when you look at the barracks or the remand home where the juvenile are residing right now, are being detained, this is not at all a reformative environment. And the staff is currently to do whatever they can in such circumstances. So we need different training, we need capacitation, we need a different environment, we need more resource allocation. But I think what is important to see is that, for example, there are several judges who were trained from the child courts who have started inspecting, the barracks for the juveniles and taken this, for example, we've just received a notice that several juveniles who were supposed to be bailed out were not. The judges who visited those barracks realized it, and they have launched now an appeal to the concerned district session judge for those juveniles to be bailed out and not in detention anymore. Some judges have also taken action for the juvenile to be vaccinated or sent to hospitals for medical care. So it's not systemized enough, and it is not real law enforcement as it should be. But I would say it's work in progress in a manner that has been unprecedented so far.
I agree. And I think any remand or detention of a child has to, at any point, be a last resort, unless and it has to be shown that all other options have been exhausted before a child is remanded into custody or detained for any reason whatsoever.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I would like to, I think Mr. Waheed Ahmed has raised his hand for quite some time. Would you like to say something? I think, Ali, could you please?
Yeah, he's been unmuted.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and invitation for this conference. I just want to share my experience because for the last 15 years, I am working with juveniles in Lahore, in the camp jail. So I have seen that there is, in most of the cases, police never mention the right age of the children in their identification paper. They always mention extra, like 18, 19 or 19, 20 years. Either the child is just 11 or 12. So this is the biggest problem. And due to that reason, they lost all the rights mentioned in the Juvenile Justice System Act. And the problem is they have no liaison with the probation officer. And mostly children are in jail. They are street children. They don't have any family interaction with them. And they are mostly living in street. And police arrest them in minor cases, or sometimes they arrest them in unknown FIRs. So there is a big problem for in our system that there is no, you can say, plenty for a police for not mentioning the age of juvenile and not informing the probation officer. Like I conducted a training session with different probation officers, but only in Sargodha, I received a good response from the probation officer. He told me that he received a request from a police that they arrested a juvenile and they want him to assist them in the during investigation. And I also visited more than, I think, 15 districts of Punjab, but no other probation officer told me or informed me that he received any request from the police about the arrest of juvenile. So if they never mentioned the age of juvenile and they never mentioned he's a juvenile, even court are not going to consider or you can say they can take it seriously, because when they are going for for remand, they never saw a children or even the probation the prosecutor was there, and he is also not going to inform the court that he is juvenile and police mentioned the wrong age. This is the issue, and because of no penalty, and even judges are not taking it seriously. So this is our biggest challenge for us. Even the lawyers are not familiar with these laws. We are arranging different trainings. So this is the issue we are facing still in our JJSA or in previously JJSO. Thank you.
I think I'm allowed to respond.
Yes, absolutely, please. You're the most relevant person for this question.
Wahid Sahab, I'd just like to add a few things what you said. Actually, we need to understand, and there is actually a lot of need to understand for all the justice actors to this new law, the Juvenile Justice System Act 2018. The window for not releasing a juvenile or arresting a juvenile is actually very limited. You can say that in a simply, for example, I would just briefly say that below the age of 16 years, almost there are chances for every juvenile accused to get a bail. And there is a very limited, I mean, between 16 to 18 year for not having a bail, that too in very heinous and serious offenses like murder, rape, or you can say terrorism or narcotics cases. So first thing, that the law permits allowing children on bail and not keeping them in remand homes or jails. One thing. The second is regarding, and you very aptly actually noted that police is generally inclined toward writing the age higher, so that it would be easier for them to show a juvenile as an adult, and they will have they would not have to go through all the processes required for a juvenile. But I would also like to remind that at the same time, this law also had a check on the police as well. For example, if Section 8(1) of a Juvenile Justice System Act empowers the police actually to determine the age, at the same time, the subsection 2 of the Section 8 also empowers the court actually to oversee and to give findings and to give findings on the age on a very first day. So actually, it's also important that we do understand, and all the justice actors, they do understand the law, and then they actually talk about enforcement of the law. And last, that there's a no penalty. I also humbly would like to differ on this point. The Juvenile Justice System Act in particularly provides for 3 years imprisonment, up to 3 years imprisonment for a faulty investigation. And there's also, for example, in a rape-related cases, in a sexual offenses-related cases, there's also penalty for faulty investigation and for all the officers. The word public officer is used. This means that may be a doctor, maybe an investigation officer, or any other, or a forensic expert, any other person who is related actually to prepare the investigation reports or other technical reports. So, though it's not covering everything, but for the juveniles, I would say that for the faulty investigation is punishable. In the same way, and even if the victim is adult, not a juvenile, in a sex-related offenses, it's also a crime, and the faulty investigation is actually punishable up to 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rafat Ali Sahab. 2 people have raised their hands. Could I please ask Khatija Tahir to ask a question? And you'll have to unmute her.
Khadija has been unmuted.
Thank you.
Sorry. I just want to ask, we have Dr. Saab has mentioned adverse childhood experiences. So while you are rehabilitating these perpetrators and the victims, what treatment is being done for these adverse childhood experiences?
So with regards to adverse childhood experiences, then it's a matter of trying to stabilize those adverse. So some of the adverse childhood experiences, as I mentioned, if there's, for example, if they have housing issues, financial issues within the family, so having a social worker help with the family. If there's education, and it's then rehabilitating the child as well. So that becomes part of the state's responsibility, and also educating the family and trying to stabilize the family household, because sometimes the attitudes within a family, they may not be aware that these are the kind of attitudes that tend to lead to mental health difficulties, whether it's depression, anxiety, or even an undiagnosed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's working with the family and with and also separately with the victims as well, in trying to help them manage that trauma. So children, once they're growing up in very difficult households, undergo a lot of trauma, and we also talk about a very important concept of resilience. And maybe these kids are hardened to the point that they don't get affected by these problems, but it's the reverse. Resilience is a different mechanism, but we work with the families, we work with the victims, we work with civil society to try and stabilize those adverse. And the evidence base is quite clear, and these 10 adverse childhood experiences I mentioned are, it's usually above 3 or 4 that you can actually predict those difficulties in developing in children.
Thank you so much. Rahim Shakil, I think you have a question.
Yes, Assalamualaikum. I hope I'm audible. Assalamualaikum. I hope I'm audible.
Sorry, you had a question?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes, you're audible. We can hear you. Actually, he's on mute.
I have unmuted him.
Yeah, thank you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, yes, you are.
Yeah, so Assalamualaikum. My name is Rahim Shakil, and I'm currently a student of AS in the Root School System, DH1 Islamabad, where I'm also the president of Child Rights Society. So basically, what I'm going to ask, it comprises of 2 questions here. So first, they say an unjust law is no law at all. So here in Pakistan and in many countries around the world, the minimum age to commit a crime is 7 years old. But some cases do tell us that there are some very rare cases do tell us that the age may go up till 14 years. But what personally amazes me here, that what does a 7-year-old child knows about what are the consequences, or what is the thing is doing, what consequences is that particular action is going to have. Moreover, here in Pakistan, where some kids aren't able to basically prove their ages because they don't have any birth certificate or any school documents to prove that, they have to go through trials held by police. And on those children who cannot prove their age, police have full authority to use physical power to arrest. So why aren't there any juvenile forces or specialized juvenile forces who could help these children in these cases? Secondly, there is no specific amount of time given to courts to handle these child court cases, because you can just imagine the trauma these child would have to go through because of all these courtrooms and all of this torture that they're going to have mentally, socially, and even personally. And lastly, one more thing here that our mentor, Ma'am Hadija Mushtaq, also says, that the best thing about education is that it's limitless. So why aren't the government making such laws that would actually help these children know about what rights do they hold, what law do these children have to raise their voices? Because if they are not aware of this, they will have a lot of sexual harassment cases and many other cases, just like I mentioned earlier, that police is allowed to use physical forces on these children when they aren't able to prove their ages. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jugnoo, I just wanted to clarify 2 things very quickly. Under the Juvenile Justice System Act, like Wahid mentioned, the minimum age for criminal responsibility is now 10 years of age. And then there is a second threshold, which is between 10 to 14, which is under the discretion of the judge when he or she assesses the level of the child maturity to understand the consequences of his or her act. So we may further amend, because the General Comment 24 of the UNCRC recommend that it should be 14, but I mean, there has already been an improvement and we're getting there, at least as far as the legislative framework is concerned. We've had an order from the judge in the juvenile court in Mardan, for example, who refused to entertain a case of a child who was in conflict with the law because that child was less than 10 years of age. So this kind of jurisprudence are now, coming. This kind of court decision that follow the best interest of the child are actually coming up now. But like this judge was saying in the Child Protection Court in Mardan, we need a special fund for courts. I mean, that's also a resource allocation issue. We need training. The Juvenile Justice System Act also says that any pertinent document can be used to determine the age of the child. It's not limited to the birth certificate anymore, although we also, the state is working with UNICEF to improve the registration of birth, the birth registration. That's a need. But as far as education is concerned, the single national curriculum reform is now talking about including child rights and child protection in the curriculum. It's not enough. The problem is that as a generic level, it's stated. When you go into the substantial matter, it's not adequate. And here, that's where the state, and especially different education department and the federal Ministry of Education, has to work with the, I would say, technical experts who know about child justice and child protection. But we've had initiatives in schools at community level, even in madrasas, where booklets and curriculum from not only Group Development Pakistan, but also Ahang or Sahil, were actually teaching children about their right, their protection, and the justice system. And these are good practices that must be upscaled and institutionalized further.
Thank you, Valerie. We do have a question from Aisha Banu, who asks, do we have punishment for a person who incites a child to commit a crime under the JJSA? Perhaps you can answer this.
So come again, the question?
Do we have punishment for a person who incites a child to commit a crime under JJSA?
No, it's a very tricky question. I can't understand completely, because the JJSA is actually provide a procedure. It doesn't provide the punishment. It provides punishment only for faulty investigation. Otherwise, it's a procedural law that tells you how to treat a juvenile during investigation or trial procedure or for adjudication.
Thank you. I think now I can summarize the recommendations given on the way forward, which are resource allocation, more capacity building, more reforms, and investment in mental health. If there are any suggestions at all, could someone like to share them? Would someone like to share them, but very quickly, because we're a bit tight on time. I think would say widening. So Madiha Ansari would say widening children's participation. Okay, noted. Thank you. I think I will now invite Angela Vigil, who's the Pro Bono Partner and Executive Director of Pro Bono Practice at Baker and McKenzie, to share her thoughts on child justice and rule of law.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for including me and being part of this important discussion. I'm proud to be here as a lawyer for artists, coders, dancers, future government leaders. But in my experience, when I get to represent those people, they are in fact youth. And they are people under the age of 18 who have run into conflicts with the law, either here in the United States, where I am based and practice representing children, or around the world where Baker and McKenzie, the law firm that I work with, engages with activities on behalf of children who are refugees, trafficked, involved in juvenile justice. I come from a law firm that is focused on business. So if you've heard of Baker McKenzie before, you've heard about it in the context of business, but our pro bono work is very much focused on children because we're proud to work with all the organizations that have brought together today to think about what the contribution should be, not only from the public interest and the government community, but the business community as well. Which leads to my purpose in the few minutes I have, which is to talk about the connection between child rights and rule of law. And I was so excited to hear the comments from our special representative on violence against children starting the day, because her reference to the Sustainable Development Goals is really where the focus of my comments are. I'm about to say something that I assume to all on this gathering is very obvious, which is that the improvement of the child rights system, the implementation of the things that we've been talking about all day, it directly improves the rule of law for any country that invests in them, yours and mine, and contributes to our path towards meeting the sustainability development goals that all nations have pledged to try to meet to. That seems obvious, but when you look into how much it is such a clear, easy way for all nations to improve their rule of law, whatever index you're looking at, it seems to me a really important statement to make, even to those in all of the countries that we all work in and work with, where child rights may not be the focus, but rule of law is. The rights enshrined in the Convention on the Rights of the Child, signed by and ratified by Pakistan, run through all of the Sustainable Development Goals. And they do that because it's part of access to justice as a fundamental requirement for all humans and therefore all children, since children's rights are human rights and vice versa. So whether you're looking at 16.2 on exploitation, 16.3 in the rule of law and equal access to justice, 16.6 in strong institutions, or over in SDG 5 and gender equality, we see how they all work together in support of building a strong, transparent, and meaningful child rights system that does what it promises. But that's where the challenge is, and I respect so much what we've been hearing all day about how we need systems that respect core human rights under international law as well as national law. I want to share that when you look at rule of law indexes that examine all of our nations around the world, the number one factor that affects whether nations move up or down in those assessments is fundamental rights. And fundamental rights in this international law context is very, very broad. So we're talking about basic statements of equal treatment and absence of discrimination, like we've been talking about giving children access to justice systems and child-friendly proceedings, least restrictive environment, never locking a child in detention unless it's the absolute last resort. Those fundamental rights factors in the Sustainable Development Goals and rule of law indexes talk about due process, including speedy trials, properly identifying the age of children, as was raised by a speaker today, and keeping them in youth justice systems. When rule of law indexes evaluate all of our systems, they look at criminal adjudication, criminal systems generally, and that includes juvenile justice systems. So speedy resolution of courts, evidence-based studies, all of these pieces could contribute to lifting up the rule of law in general across the country. But here is the challenge outlined by our friend, the doctor from Canada, Dr. Hassan pointed out. In child rights, it's not just laws, but the practice and implementation of those laws. We have to take paper into practice. But in child rights, it's also evidentiary-based, multidisciplinary work. So it's not just laws and lawyers. And if we're only talking to laws and lawyers, we're making a mistake, lawyers and judges, we're making a mistake. One, because you can't work on a child justice system without the voice of children and youth, as we are today and have to continue to do adamantly. And also because you can't make sure you're following evidence-based practices unless we're looking at the disciplines of psychology, medicine, nutrition, health, and so many other pieces that all of the studies on juvenile justice across the world have confirmed need to be part of an active and positive juvenile justice system. It makes so much sense to everyone here, but I'll say it plainly: better child rights systems, more evidence-based child rights systems, more child-centered justice systems improve our fundamental rights and therefore the rule of law. They help all of our countries get closer to sustainability development goals. And I am honored to be learning more about how it is the improvements across everything happening in Pakistan, it sounds like, are in that direction. It sounds like the challenges are ones that we're sharing all over, and that Baker McKenzie is working on in 47 different countries at the moment, which is making paper actually practice so that the rule of law improves not only for children, but when it improves for children, it improves for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you. I really enjoyed hearing that. Valerie, would you like to speak for a moment? I think Ali, you have to unmute her.
Okay, I just have a small message. Again, Mrs. Maleeka Bokhari would like, she's really sorry. She would like to, convey her deep apology. She's still with the Prime Minister. It's not she doesn't want to come, she's working, she apologized. But it's important that on behalf of the, I'm not a representative of the MOLJ, but it's important that we all know that the Federal Ministry of Law and Justice is dedicated to promoting justice for children, access to justice for girls and women, because when we talk children, it's also important to acknowledge the intersection with the mothers also is a priority. The Federal Ministry of Law and Justice has developed a 5-year action plan on women and girls in the justice system, and they are the minister is dedicated to supporting us to enforce justice for children in Pakistan. For them, it's just the beginning. They will be there. They want to focus on rule of law. They understand its importance also, and the reformative agenda. So I think it's an encouraging message for all of us and for the way forward.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for delivering their message. I will now ask Marta to conclude the session, and for her, amazing patience. Waiting for 2 hours, and now I would request her to give a vote of thanks. Marta, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jugnoo, and thank you very much to all of you, panelists and participants, for these very interesting sessions. I would like to share some of the highlights that I was really very happy to listen from each of the panelists, if you allow me. But first of all, to all the organizers, GDP, Terre, the Ministry of Law and Justice, as you were saying, and all the different partners of the World Congress. And also a special thanks to our excellent moderator, Jugnoo. Thank you very much. I think it was not very easy at the beginning, and you have done it exceptionally. So thank you so much. So I would like to recall a few ideas. I promise that it would not be more than a minute. You've been patiently 2 hours listening to all of us. But very 3-4 important points. It was very interesting to listen to the 2 advocates that we have here this afternoon. One was highlighting all the big and good array of laws that Pakistan is having on children. Our other panelist was highlighting that still there are some challenges in the law enforcement. But I think what is really key is the fact that, as Valerie was mentioning, you are in an unprecedented moment. There is an agenda for access to justice for children and with children. There are things that has happened from 2017 to 2020 with the formation of the child courts, the willingness of the government and the civil society to work on that field, and the fact, which to me personally and professionally is really, really important, is like children and youth are engaged with this reformative agenda and the steps that the country is following on access to justice with children. Thank you very much, and this is a special thanks to all of the children and the youth that has accompanying us this today. Without you and with your opinions, your impressions, your desires, and your ideas, I mean, no justice system is never working properly with children. So thank you very much for being here. And also thank you for your beautiful and bright insights. And what I mean, the last message that I would like to take in from your different speeches is that there is room for improvement, there is willingness for improvement, there are children and youth committed to work better and more on access to justice with children and for children. So I really was, wish to be a part of that. But I mean, you have a great civil society fabric in Pakistan. So I think it's absolutely worth it to keep working together and to really invest on that very important field. So this is just the first step. We will see each other in the World Congress, but even before and obviously after. But thank you very much on behalf of all the co-organizers of this event. And we will keep working together for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marta. Thank you for brilliantly summarizing it.
Have a good evening, everyone, or night or morning, in different parts of the world, and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all our participants. Thank you to all our participants.
Ali, do you think we could do a group picture? I don't know, I'm not the tech person with
I'm
all the
already taking group pictures.
Oh,
if you ask, we can still take more.
We're going to try with 46 people. So maybe we need 2 shots. I don't know.
Done?
Done? Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Share it then. With all the squares, with all the pictures?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much. And see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.